United States, Trump revokes Biden's 50% EV target and freezes unspent charging funds. So Trump is showing the U.S. is done with their EV incentives. They're done with pushing those targets. Well, guess what? 5 auto CEOs warned the party in May that EV mandates would inflict serious damage across industry. The letter was signed by Ford Canada CEO Bev Goodman, General Motors Canada President Christina Aquilina, Honda Canada President and CEO Dave Jameson, as well as Stellantis Canada CEO Jeff Hines, Toyota Canada President Cyril Demeter. The market is not urgently repealed. It will inflict serious damage on automakers, the dealership network, and hundreds of thousands of Canadians employed in the sector. So that is more pressure on Mark Carney. There's a plan right now for Canada to ban combustion engines by 2030 and be completely EV. All of these companies are saying you're going to make us uncompetitive. You're going to crush the auto sector. Why would these companies, which are either American companies or Japanese foreign companies, not just move all their operations down to the U.S., where there's going to be demand anyways, and there's a possibility that they're going to get hit with tariffs by staying in Canada, and that's why Trump is constantly able to do announcements like this, where he stacks his wins. He's talking about, look, we're going to win the auto industry from Canada. We're going to win the auto industry from Mexico. And it's probably true.
Real levels of relativity, Judge.
Sam is in Tower 3. I'm trying to find a way there. Stabilize the ether reactors before they go critical. Please.
This is what Maxis would have wanted. It has to be. You should see me with gardening shears.
Yeah, that's...
Trapped in the sphere of a cycle, Maxis had no chance. Mortally wounded, she yielded to the dark ether. Her spirit now only lives on in me.
Ignore that cheap knockoff of your fallen friend. My family takes priority now.
Eddie, you let her die inside that orb. You could have saved her.
And risk releasing the Forsaken. Maxis chose her fate. Mary and Samuel did not.
Max armor.
Mr. John Blanchard, is anyone near admin? I had to hole up here while I was looking for that maniac Panos.
No doubt he'll find Sam and they'll become fast friends.
That's the ball.
All this time, I clung to the hope I could bring back Maxis.
So that's the same
And that's over now.
Perhaps, Elizabeth.
Double
Or
pause.
perhaps you have a chance to do something even greater. I'm confident you will choose wisely.
Semtex armed!
Bonus points.
The options before us always seem to be bad ones. Create a false Maxis or help the director. Oh boy.
Helping Richthofen is a non-starter. He's a monster. But expunging a terrible mistake from Max's record, maybe I owe him.
Tear them to pieces. This will end badly for Max ammo.
Because he's just not willing to cut immigration. So instead, we're going to build a tunnel like it's some science fiction project. It was insane. But don't worry, Mark Carney is finally getting deals done because he announced he's going to give billions of dollars.
This rogue scientist the security chief warned us about, Panos, if he's against the director, how bad can he be?
I had the same thought. But if I have learned one thing, the enemy of my enemy is not always my friend.
Precision, the hallmark of good science.
Don't worry, Nate. We want you in charge of all these projects. Yeah, sure.
After this, I'll be ready for space.
Charge of every project, and he is trying to buy them for billions of dollars. That's a little awkward, Mark. Ottawa, Minnesota,
I hope this is worth it.
If you have find our personal effects from before we were incarcerated, I had some Swedish magazines you should definitely not look at.
Ah, thanks for warning. I'm sure you only bought them for the articles. That's right. I come by air now.
All of this will be built. Next, we're going to report those built. We'll get rid of the capital tax.
So, this announcement, all of this is there.
And Bob's your uncle. We're here.
That has to be passed by the liberals. If the liberals vote down this bill, they are actively taking the stance. This is official. There is no more code. From liberal boomers, whoever wants to defend Mark Carney, every single thing that is on that list needs to be approved. And if they vote it down, they are voting down the actual future of Canada. And this is a pretty big update, by the way.
Klarna, you do not have to pay the money back.
Just don't pay your loans back. You don't owe anybody anything anyway.
Not paying your Klarna debt almost feels like the new status symbol.
So today we're going to be taking a look at people who refuse to pay off their debt. We're going to be going over many different reasons on why they decided not to pay and the consequences down the road. We got the student loans, we have the credit cards, buy now, pay later loans, car payments, we have it all. We also have some comments from you guys from previous videos, so if you want to be featured on a future video, leave in the comments down below. But let's just kick this off with the good old-fashioned Klarna payments.
You use Klarna, you do not have to pay the money back.
It's not the Russian kind. At last, a glimmer of positivity. I'd wondered how gratifying that might be, but wow! I just knew this was going to work out. I'll count my blessings as soon as I have.
They're going to take a lot more money than just some of the interest from those installment loans. We can take a look at some of the comments. The first one is an image of his brain being empty, but his mouth being full. Just bought a house on
Some. I'll have you shredded and made into bog rolls.
You must be in turmoil about whom to help.
Just the first example. We got a whole ton to go through today. Just don't take it over, but you don't owe anybody anything.
We regain control of the Sentinel artifact.
Honestly, I'm leaning towards helping Richardson. Correction, helping his poor wife and child, and then finding her a good divorce lawyer. It's safe to say my pacifist days are over. Tougher than a rhino's hide, and twice as headstrong.
Tear them to pieces.
electricity's knows no bounds. This accelerator is not happy.
That particle accelerator is powered by the ether reactors, which are coming undone. Sam.
Max ammo.
Currently circling tower 1, 3, whatever.
Took you long enough.
I'm not a young man anymore, and neither are you.
That should take some pressure off the system.
Let me guess. Now we're even more fucked? Why did I think you idiots would be able to handle this? I'm seeing significant improvements in system stabilization.
I'd say I was sorry, but I'm not. Did anyone else see that? Weaver! Anyone?
We have stabilization. Reactors are responding positively. So far, you're exceeding my expectations. Well done. One more thing to procure at the mutant research lab, and then you need to get to Tower 3. Sam has blocked it off, but we have a portal-shaped ace up our sleeve.
Hey, yo, let's get near the Ground Poker Club. Feedback will have to wait.
Did you enjoy being exploded?
Stuck here.
I regret all I put you through. But now I can finally have a life. Do not try to take that from me.
Yes. Think of all you suffered to bring back Maxis, when she knew all along it was impossible. All I ask is that you unmurder my family.
Warning. Prepare for restoration of normal gravity levels.
Goodness me! It's all go round here.
Magnetic fluctuations detected. Brace for low gravity conditions.
Low impact workouts are better for you. I know it's a big change, but you'll get used to it. Why do I feel like I just went the distance with a heavyweight champion?
Tear them to pieces. Max ammo.
We are ready when you are. It better be soon. My skin is itchy.
Gravity conditions reverting to normal levels.
Well, isn't this a strange and terrible turn of events?
Double points.
So you get what you pay for. Today, another happy customer.
Dance upon your corpse. No extra charge.
All stations prepare for reduced gravity conditions. Stow all tools and loose objects.
Okay, no trespassing. Unless you want to die again.
Whoever gave Strauss that juice box is fucked up for all y'all. The controls are home.
Darling, you were way over your pay grade. Oh, clown shoes! Come over here! You remind me of Peg. Always put his foot in it.
Max armor.
Gravity conditions are being restored to usual levels.
Because apparently not paying your debt is a status symbol.
He's probably going to boot up again. Flickering stalkers false manipulated me to end my live stream, y'all. So, yeah, live stream. Afternoon open talk. Hashtag probably somebody has told me that she is not in a hotel. So apparently she's upset and wants to get back in, so she's probably going to be going live again. That is my guess. Junk Goddess, peanut butter, and
Gravity falling.
got you. Sorry. Using candy voice for somebody else. Very beautiful woman. It's more beautiful. So I've got you as well. People, this world will perish to hell. Also, keep you from the stalkers. The stalkers. That's still God.
Serves you right for not killing me when you had the chance.
Max armor.
Yeah, we could probably watch it.
Attention. Low gravity conditions.
Don't need blackout. At this point, blackout doesn't seem to be fast as you're expecting. You know, it was cool at first, and then, you know, as time went on, it was like, okay. And I actually can't believe that they made blackout less in this game because of the use of which is kind of cool, but it is Black Ops 6 is like I was surprised. I thought they were going to like change the game message, but no, they went straight with it. And that name alone makes me want to avoid the game entirely. Now I know it's supposed to be this like Black Ops 2 sequel. They got David Mason, they got Menendez. I get it. Okay, they're taking the Black Ops 2 sort of theme and they're making a new COD. That's not what I'm upset about. I love Black Ops 2. I think like most COD players, we can agree that Black Ops 2 is one of the best Call of Duties ever made. It's my second favorite COD ever. In fact, it's probably my second favorite game ever. But Black Ops 7, like that name just makes me think Black Ops 6. Like it literally just makes me think it's gonna be another year of Black Ops 6. And I know that the games are going to be way different and take place decades apart, 4 decades apart, in fact. I keep hating on the name, and honestly, what else are they going to be able to do? I mean, they try to make Call of Duty Vanguard, nobody buys it, everybody hates it, right? They try to make these one-off CODs, and they just flop. Their only successful IPs are Modern Warfare and Black Ops. So honestly, I don't even care that they named it Black Ops 7. I mean, what else are they going to do, right? They tried to name games other things, it didn't work. The question is, for how long? For how much longer are we going to do this Black Ops thing, right? Because it's getting to the point where the Black Ops games are kind of not special anymore. Now, of course, the originals, to me, are special. I think most people can agree that Black Ops 2, hell, even Black Ops 3, are great Call of Duty classics. But then we kind of stretch it out a bit. Alright, we're no longer in a trilogy. Now we got Black Ops 4. Now we got Cold War, which is Black Ops 5. Well, at least that game had somewhat of a unique name, right? And I actually like Cold War for that. But Black Ops 6, now it's like, okay, I think this has overstayed its welcome. Black Ops 7, I just can't get behind it, man. I will not buy that game. For the Game Pass owners, I mean, you might as well play it, right? I mean, you don't have anything extra outside of the Game Pass that you pay for to pay it. So I guess there's no negative incentive to buy the game because you're not buying it anyway. But for the rest of the people, I'm talking the PlayStation people, hell, even the Nintendo Switch people probably, according to this tweet, you're going to have to pay $80 for this game. That is the standard price. That is the price for the standard edition of Black Ops 7. Okay, so for those of you, this is a pretty big purchase, I'm not gonna lie, anyone say nothing. And I think there's better places to put $80. I mean, especially in this economy, if you're a young adult, like rolling in dough, you got a good job, or whatever, if you're just like a regular person, I hate to tell you, but like the OG content, I mean, you might can have self-control. I actually did enjoy Black Ops 6. I did. But I don't play it. I have no desire to play Black Ops 6. I have basically no emotional attachment to that game whatsoever. And I think it's because there's no emotion put into the game. Like when the developers create these new Call of Duty games, there is no soul. There is no developer passion and heart involved in the creation of these games. It's all about money. Now I get it for the business. They're trying to make money. But when I load up a game and the first thing I see is a bunch of bundled
If you could stop the ether reactors from going critical, that would be lovely. I will find where that semi-conscious bucket of bolts is hiding the artifact.
Fine. I suppose Sam's betrayal is fresher than yours. Ooh, sorry, been a bit trigger-happy lately. Sam, Maxis isn't coming back, is she?
No. I wish I'd leveled with you sooner, Elizabeth. The Forsaken wore her down until there was nothing left.
Deep down, I always knew. How dare you give me false hope?
It is the last thing she would have wanted. I know this better than anyone.
Max Marvel.
But wireless is like it's gonna cost $2,000 to buy one.
If you're hearing this, my name is John Blanchard. Keep your heads on a swivel for Dr. Pericles Panos. He's killed at least one of my teams and is absolutely insane.
Hello, it is nice to meet new friends. Have you been outside? Did you get to see the hedgehog cloud?
Bob's your uncle. We're here.
Bonus points.
All this time, I clung to the hope I could bring back Maxis. And that's over now.
Perhaps, Elizabeth. Or perhaps you have a chance to do something even greater. I am confident you will choose wisely.
Double points.
The options before us always seem to be bad ones. Create a false Maxis or help the director. Oh boy.
Helping Richthofen is a non-starter. He's a monster. But expunging a terrible mistake from Maxis' record, maybe I owe him that. After this, I'll be ready for space. Did you think I was some kind of pushover?
Kaboom!
Lockout 7 will have the same run that Lockout 6. Lockout 6 I was so excited. I wanted to talk about how they developed this game. And I was like, okay, excited. All my friends were excited for it. We played nonstop. The game came out, we grinded. Trying to chase that really difficult game. Want to know what none of us played it. seemed like out of nowhere. By 1, stop. 5 weeks. Another player, 6 weeks.
Sam is in Tower 3. I'm trying to find a way there. Stabilize the ether reactors before they go critical. Please.
Fine. I suppose Sam's betrayal is fresher than yours. I don't like mind games. Hence the brain removal.
Trapped in the sphere of Psychoth, Nexus had no chance. Mortally wounded, she yielded to the dark ether. Her spirit now only lives on. In me.
Ignore that cheap knockoff of your fallen friend. My family takes priority now.
Eddie, you let her die inside that orb. You could have saved...
And risk releasing the Forsaken. Maxis chose her fate. Harry and Samuel did not.
This is John Blanchard. Is anyone near admin? I had to hole up here while I was looking for that maniac Panos.
No doubt he'll find Sam and they'll become fast friends. And Bob's your uncle. We're here. Sending a Semtex. All this time, I clung to the hope I could bring back Maxis. And that's over now.
Perhaps, Elizabeth. Or perhaps you'll have a chance to do something even greater. I'm confident you will choose wisely.
Insta-kill.
The options before us always seem to be bad ones. Create the false Maxis, or help the director. Or die.
Helping Richtofen is a non-starter. He's a monster. But expunging a terrible mistake from Maxis' record, maybe I owe her that. I've got ammo and 6 years of pent-up rage. Who else wants some? Take that, gravity! Shock charge deployed. I'd forgotten you were a bit of a sadist, Box. Looks good. Eliminate shady fuckers even better.
Max armor.
Until they start catching on, if they're not.
I'm being patient. This rogue scientist the security chief warned us about, Panos, if he's against the director, how bad can he be?
I had the same thought. But if I have learned one thing, the enemy of my enemy is not always my friend.
Tear them to pieces. Evidence. You go first. I insist.
Our personal effects from before we were incarcerated. I had some Swedish magazines you should definitely not look at.
Oh, thanks for the warning. I'm sure you only bought them for the articles. Not even for a second.
Bonus points.
Be in turmoil about whom to help should we regain control of the Sentinel artifact.
Honestly, I'm leaning towards helping Richtofen. Correction, helping his poor wife and child. And then finding her a good divorce lawyer. Consider that your final warning.
Max armor.
Subjects are about to make a shocking discovery. reactor is not happy.
Welcome to sub-level 10. Reactor stability is hanging on by a thread. Get to work. See? Not so difficult.
Everything with you is difficult.
More power, less problems.
Let me guess. Now we're even more fucked? Why did I think you idiots would be able to handle this?
Bonus points.
Yes, that is having a positive effect.
Currently circling towers. 1, 3, whatever.
We have stabilization. Reactors are responding positively. So far, you're exceeding my expectations. Well done. One more thing to procure at the mutant research lab, and then you'll need to get to Tower 3. Sam has blocked it off, but we have a portal-shaped ace up our sleeve.
You lot sure get around. I think there's bits of you on the walls.
I regret all I put you through. But now I can finally have a life. Do not try to take that from me.
Yes. Think of all you suffered to bring back Maxis, when she knew all along it was impossible. All I ask is that you unmurder my family.
Your evac cannot be completed as done. We apologize for any inconvenience. Goodbye.
Max ammo.
Warning. Prepare for restoration
That's
of normal gravity levels.
Double points.
This must be that process Harvard told me about.
Kaboom.
trouble never lies. So down the hatch. At least my jaw muscles are getting a workout. Like riding a bike. Time for some fancy fingering. Oh no. Oh wait. No, that came out wrong. Very wrong. Take a breather, Elizabeth. Is everyone okay? I doubt that would pass athletic doping tests, but needs must. Bloody hell! That's a lot of mercy pills.
Let me know when you're done stealing those nerds' lunch
It's
money.
kind of a one-stop shop for all your ammo mod needs. Oh, the horrors of technology.
Gravity returning to 1G standard. Please return all trays and tables to an upright position.
here for unsafe keeping. You can see me with gardening shears. That's what happens when you bring teeth and claws to a gunfight. There goes the flavour. Anything under lock and key is bound to be important.
Tear them to pieces!
I've always got time for new bread. Cheers! Steak Harvard told me about. Before all this comes tumbling down. How about it, Raptor 1?
Don't eat any mushrooms! Only we're all allowed to burn and smell. Can't do anything till you send that bird to this little fish beer. Woohoo! We've had a ride!
bullshit.
Then you have numbers of more people claiming unemployment at an unusual rate year to date. Usually, durable prices fall.
Every American owes a slice of a massive bill, whether they know it or not. The U.S. national debt has hit a staggering $37 trillion, and it is still climbing, thanks to new legislation that could tack on trillions more. Compared to that, your credit card balance looks like pocket change. But what does having this huge amount of debt even mean? How does it even affect us? And would paying it off fix the problems in the economy? Or could it actually make things worse? We're looking into the world's biggest IOU on today's episode of the Infographic Show. What if the U.S. paid off its $37 trillion debt? To understand how to fix the debt, it's important to understand why we have it in the first place. There is an easy answer. Lots and lots of government spending without enough tax money coming in to cover it all. And there's a more complicated answer, and that involves what the U.S. is spending government money on and why. First of all, the U.S. budget is divided into mandatory and discretionary spending. In 2024, about 47% of discretionary spending, or 14.8% of the total government budget, was diverted to spending on defense. Stockholm International Peace Research Institute, SIPRI, put total defense spending at $997 billion, while the congressional budget priced it in at $850 billion. Some items the SIPRI counts as defense spending, the CBO puts elsewhere in the budget. Just how massive is $37 trillion? Well, it's more than the combined defense budgets of the next 9 biggest military spenders, including China, which only spent $314 billion that same year. The U.S. drops a fortune on defense to stay the world's top military power, but that is not even the country's biggest expense. It is just the biggest slice of discretionary spending, the part of the budget that Congress votes on each year. In 2024, some of the biggest ticket items were Social Security, which totaled 22% of the total budget, $1.5 trillion, and Medicare, which was 12% of the budget at $839 billion. But Social Security falls under mandatory spending, which Congress legislates every so often for many years at a time. Mandatory spending is 2/3 of the annual budget, more or less depending on the year. The upside to mandatory spending is that it doesn't have to conform to pre-established budget limits set by Congress, as discretionary spending does. Well, it is supposed to, at least. Rather, programs that fall under mandatory spending usually have certain rules for who qualifies, and whoever does gets the money or benefits offered by the government. So in times of recession or any other national crisis, Congress doesn't have to scramble to suddenly allocate a lot more money to people. Instead, the people who need the government's help can get it immediately. The downside is, there is no telling how much the government will end up spending on those programs. The second biggest item, Medicare, falls under mandatory spending as well, while the Pentagon, which is discretionary, comes in third. Well, Medicare is usually the second biggest item on the U.S. budget. In 2024, there was a slight shift as the second biggest outlay in the U.S. budget ended up being interest payments on the national debt to the tune of $881 billion. Considering total U.S. government spending that year was $6.8 trillion, that means interest payments totaled almost 13% of the entire budget, and the Congressional Budget Office thinks that that number is going to get much worse. In 2025 alone, the CBO believes interest payments will total $952 billion, and by 2034, they could go up to as much as $1.7 trillion. Now, if you think this is a worst-case scenario projection, we have bad news. That is actually a decent-case scenario projection. The CBO forecast is based on the assumption that short-term interest rates will not only stay low, but fall. If interest rates stay steady, or worse yet, rise, the U.S. will end up paying a lot more in interest costs. But how did the U.S. run up this enormous $37 trillion debt in the first place? In a very straightforward sense, the U.S. has accumulated an enormous debt by spending way more than it brings in each year. Some argue that it's because of lower tax rates, particularly for the richest Americans. Others say it's because of massive government spending, and both are kind of right. Because the U.S., like many Western countries, has an aging problem, Social Security payments have been increasing, while the labor force to sustain them is shrinking relative to the population. People are having fewer children and living longer than ever thanks to medical advancements. The U.S. population's median age increased from 30 in 1980 to 38.9 in 2022. Americans aged 65 and older, those who qualify for Social Security, are projected to increase from 58 million in 2022 to 82 million in 2050. That's an increase of 47%. On the other hand, according to the Pew Research Center, the U.S.'s working age population, age 18 to 64, will grow from 186 million in 2005 to 255 million in 2050. This is only a 37% growth over a much bigger period of time, and that represents a smaller rate of growth than that of the overall population. And there is one huge issue with that projection. Roughly 82% of the expected population growth is projected to come from immigration, not births. And that means if future policies restrict immigration, even this already slow growth in the working age population could stall out completely. If that happens, that is bad news for Social Security. There will be fewer workers paying in, more retirees cashing out, and a system under serious strain. Government spending in the last 2 decades also increased dramatically because of back-to-back crises in recent U.S. history, including the 2008 financial collapse and the 2020 pandemic recovery. In both cases, the administrations at the time passed massive stimulus packages to keep citizens and businesses financially afloat. In response to the financial crisis, the $700 billion Troubled Asset Relief Program, or TARP, was passed to stabilize financial institutions, and there was also the $787 billion American Recovery and Reinvestment Act, or ARRA, for aid, tax cuts, and infrastructure. According to usaspending.gov, since 2020, $4.7 trillion has been spent in response to the pandemic. This is a combination of funding for multiple agencies, including small businesses, labor, Veterans Affairs, and health programs, to name just a few. While government spending has surged to handle new programs and crises, taxes have steadily declined. In the early 1950s, the top marginal tax rate was 91%, meaning income above a certain threshold, about $200,000 then, or $2 million today, was taxed at that rate. But thanks to deductions and loopholes, the top 1% paid an effective tax rate of just 42%. In the early 2020s, the top marginal tax rate decreased to 37%. But the effective tax rate, the amount that the top 1% actually paid after deductions and loopholes, decreased 26 to 28%. So at times when the U.S. government has needed money the most, it has been getting less than usual. In 2024, when the U.S. government spent $6.8 trillion, it brought in a total tax revenue of $4.9 trillion, a deficit of $1.9 trillion. This equates to spending an amount equal to 23.4% of GDP, while only bringing in an amount equal to only 17.1% of GDP. This spending to GDP ratio is important, for reasons we'll get into very soon. Even a third grader could look at those two numbers and realize that there is a problem, but it hardly started last year. From 1975 to 2024, the U.S. averaged a budget deficit of around 3.8%. But in 2020, that number skyrocketed to its highest level at 14.7%, driven by emergency spending during the pandemic to support individuals and businesses through lockdowns. And while deficits are the norm, there were rare moments of surplus, like under President Clinton when the economy was booming. The U.S. actually ran a 0.8% surplus in 1998, 1.3% in 1999, and 2.3% in 2000. The late 90s were arguably the last time the world didn't feel like it was on fire. The problem is the debt to GDP ratio has been accelerating exponentially in the last 15 years. In 2009, it increased to 75.8% in order to fight the last major financial crisis. While 75.8% might sound like an insanely high ratio, you should know that in 2012, the debt to GDP ratio hit 93.65%, and the debt to GDP ratio in 2024, according to Trading Economics, was 124.3%. So let's just pay it down then. Let's start saving, making extra payments, whatever's necessary, because right now the debt stands at around $106,637 per person in the U.S., which we're gonna bet is more than the average U.S. person has in their bank account. Well, believe it or not, back in the optimistic days of 2000, people felt that there was a very real possibility of the U.S. debt eventually being paid off. Perhaps even as early as 2012, there had been a budget surplus for 3 years, and the total debt at the time was around $5.67 trillion, minimal and seemingly manageable compared to today's debt. But when economists started to model what might happen if the entire U.S. debt was paid off, the results were kind of catastrophic. And not just for the US, but for the entire world. Because like a shopaholic, the US kind of needs that debt to function, since it's tied to US Treasury bonds. Treasury bonds are currently considered one of the safest investments in the world. So safe, in fact, that banks all over the globe buy hundreds of billions of dollars worth of Treasury bonds. They're considered a great place to hold money without losing it, and making some interest along the way. And not only banks all over the world, but institutions in the US as well. Because, as it turns out, over 2/3 of public US debt is held by domestic groups, totaling $20.3 trillion in holdings at the end of December 2024. These holders include the Federal Reserve, the largest holder of public debt overall, with $4.5 trillion held by them. And there's also mutual funds and pension funds, including Social Security, state and local governments, and insurance companies. In fact, Social Security is another big holder of national debt, almost $3 trillion of it. Because the money they get from workers and employers is invested into Treasury securities, they can earn interest and be kept safe until the people need to collect their Social Security payments. The largest foreign holders of U.S. debt include Japan, $1.062 trillion of U.S. debt, China, $759 billion, and the UK at $723 billion. It makes sense for the Federal Reserve to own most U.S. debt, as the Fed's job is to manage prices and inflation. It partly does this by controlling the supply of money via holding Treasury securities and determining interest rates. Within the U.S. itself, the interest rates on many things essential to a modern, well-functioning economy, like mortgage rates, are also tied to Treasury bonds interest rates. Basically, the Fed buys and sells Treasury securities to achieve a certain federal funds rate that they have targeted, which is the interest rate at which banks lend to each other to meet their reserve requirements. The federal funds rate then becomes an unofficial minimum interest rate that each bank could set for their own.
When Marvel wrapped up Avengers Endgame, it faced a nearly impossible challenge. How do you follow up the biggest cinematic event in history? The answer was the Multiverse Saga, an ambitious, interconnected storyline that would stretch across films and Disney Plus shows, with Kang the Conqueror positioned as the next overarching villain to rival Thanos. At the center of it all was Jonathan Majors, an actor Marvel bet big on, casting him as not just one character, but as countless variants of Kang across multiple timelines and realities. But what began as Marvel's bold new chapter soon unraveled, the result of creative missteps, poor reception, and a real-world scandal that forced the studio to abruptly shift course. To find out how it all went wrong, let's take a look at how Jonathan Majors destroyed Marvel's multiverse plan. The first two Ant-Man films were released in the aftermath of major Avengers blockbusters, and were seen as light comedic palate cleansers. But for the third installment, director Peyton Reed had bigger ambitions. He didn't want to make another breather between epic stories. He wanted Ant-Man 3 to feel like an Avengers-level event, and to do that, he needed a villain worthy of the Avengers. However, what struck him as interesting was taking the tiniest Avenger, and in some people's minds the least powerful one, Ant-Man, and putting him up against the most powerful force in the multiverse, Kang. To bring that kind of character to life, they needed an actor with extraordinary range. Someone capable of portraying wildly different versions of the same person, since Kang exists as countless variants across the multiverse. Jonathan Majors had been on Marvel's radar for some time, quietly impressing the studio with his work, particularly in The Last Black Man in San Francisco. When it came time to cast Kang, they realized they had already found their actor, and while Marvel saw no need for an audition, they still needed to get the approval of both Quantumania director Peyton Reed, as well as Loki writer Michael Waldron, and director Kate Herron, since Majors was set to debut in Loki as the variant known as He Who Remains. Marvel originally had no concrete plan for the Multiverse Saga to center around Kang, but that changed during the development of Loki. Head writer Michael Waldron and his team wanted the series to end with a major impact on the larger MCU, and as they crafted the multiversal war mythology, Kang naturally emerged as the perfect figure behind it all. The character's time-traveling, reality-shifting nature made him an ideal choice for a saga that would span multiple timelines and dimensions. Once Marvel saw Jonathan Majors' performance as He Who Remains, along with early dailies for Quantumania, the decision was made. Kang wouldn't just be a one-off villain, he would become the central threat across phases 4, 5, and 6. Major's debut as He Who Remains was designed to only scratch the surface of Kang's true menace. The version that appeared in Loki was intentionally restrained, more eccentric and enigmatic than outright evil, with the real danger lying in the promise of who else might come. It was a calculated move to hint at the terrifying potential of Kang without revealing too much too soon. The creative team knew they were placing enormous weight on the finale, but head writer Michael Waldron admitted he could breathe a sigh of relief knowing following they had Majors, as they had hung a lot of their hopes on him. Despite only appearing in the final episode, Majors made an immediate and lasting impact. It was our final week of filming, literally, and he came in and blew us all away, said Tom Hiddleston. Co-star Sophia DiMartino echoed the sentiment. As soon as he was on set, he was phenomenal. Like, no one could take their eyes off of him. You knew something magical was happening. Majors, we get to show his range in the post-credit scene of Quantumania, where he plays several members of the Council of Kangs, as they convene to discuss the apparent death of the exiled one. However, Quantumania made a critical misstep when it came to establishing Kang as a major threat. It showed him being defeated far too early. While it was left ambiguous whether this particular variant died or not, the impact is the same, introducing a supposedly unstoppable villain only to have him lose in his first major appearance undercuts his menace, especially when he's beat by one of the weakest Avengers. It's a problem seen before, like in Iron Man 2, where in Whiplash's first appearance he's quickly defeated by Iron Man on the racetrack, instantly weakening his credibility as a villain, or Man of Steel, where General Zod, a fearsome military leader, is overpowered by Jor-El, a scientist, in the film's opening minutes. When the audience sees a villain lose right away, the sense of danger is diminished. The same applied to Kang, and for a character meant to surpass even Thanos in scale and threat, that early defeat may have done real damage to how seriously audiences took him. Considering at the beginning of Infinity War, the filmmakers did the opposite, and had Thanos defeat Hulk. Originally, the multiverse saga was set to culminate in an ambitious showdown between the Avengers and multiple variants of Kang the Conqueror in a film titled Avengers the Kang Dynasty. Allegedly, the plan involved splitting the Avengers into separate teams to battle three distinct Kangs, Mortis, Centurion, and Rama-Tut, across different timelines. We also allegedly would have learned that the Kang variants feared Doom, and intentionally kept him out of the conflict, agreeing to sideline him to protect their own grip on power. Only after their eventual defeat would Doom be revealed as the looming danger they had all tried to suppress, setting the stage for the next saga. After Quantumania, Majors seemed poised to become one of Hollywood's next major stars. He'd follow it up with Creed 3, starring alongside Michael B. Jordan, another Marvel alum who also portrayed one of the franchise's most iconic villains, Killmonger in Black Panther. The two spoke openly about their creative chemistry, and even floated the idea of becoming this generation's De Niro and Pacino, starring together in multiple films across genres. Their dynamic in Creed 3 was electric, and with the multiverse now a central part of Marvel's storytelling, allowing alternate versions of characters from other dimensions to appear, the possibility of their Marvel characters crossing paths became a real possibility. Even though Killmonger was killed in Black Panther, a variant could still appear, setting the stage for the two to potentially share the screen in a future Marvel film. However, 1 month after Quantumania hit theaters, Jonathan Majors was arrested on charges of assault, strangulation, and harassment following a domestic dispute with his former girlfriend. In the weeks that followed, he was dropped by both his management company, Entertainment 360, and his public relations firm, The Lead Company. After his eventual conviction, Marvel officially severed ties with Majors, removing him from all future roles as Kang. And while many thought that the role would be recast, Marvel was already second-guessing Kang as their new bad. When Quantumania was released, it proved to be a critical and commercial disappointment. Allegedly, the underwhelming reception took Marvel by surprise, and was unsettling enough to spark internal doubts about whether Kang was the right villain to anchor the multiverse saga. Kevin Feige would later say, even before what had happened to Jonathan Majors, we had started to realize that Kang wasn't Thanos. We had started talking about Doctor Doom even before we officially pivoted from Kang. In fact, I had started talking with Robert Downey Jr. about this audacious idea before Ant-Man 3 ever came out. It's also worth noting that following the Infinity Saga, Marvel began to lose the near-flawless momentum it had built over the previous decade. While there were still major hits like Spider-Man No Way Home and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, the studio also faced a growing number of misfires, both critically and commercially, with projects like The Eternals, The Marvels, and several Disney Plus series, like She-Hulk, failing to capture the same level of excitement. Audiences began expressing fatigue over the sheer volume of content, and the once tightly connected universe started to feel bloated and directionless. Behind the scenes, concerns grew that Jonathan Majors, though undeniably talented, wasn't the biggest box office draw to carry the franchise into its next phase. In response, Marvel concocted a radical idea to bring back their most iconic star, Robert Downey Jr., and reintroduced him not as Iron Man, but in a shocking twist as Doctor Doom. As a result, Marvel decided to move up the Doom storyline and replace Kang, while changing the title of the next Avengers film from Kang Dynasty to Doomsday. The move generated massive buzz, but also its fair share of criticism. While there's no doubt that Doomsday will succeed at the box office thanks to the return of fan favorite Downey, the decision also feels cheap and creatively hollow. Rather than taking the time to develop compelling new villains or build fresh narrative momentum, Marvel is relying on nostalgia and star power to patch over deeper issues. It signals a lack of confidence in their newer characters, and a reluctance to move forward without leaning on past successes. In the long run, it risks turning the MCU into a carousel of recycled icons instead of a platform for bold, original storytelling. Despite the controversy surrounding Majors, Loki Season 2 was not rewritten to address or remove his presence. According to executive producer Kevin Wright, the story seen on screen is exactly what was originally planned, with no changes made in response to Major's arrest, which occurred after filming had already wrapped. However, the way the season ends speaks volumes about Marvel's shifting internal priorities. Rather than positioning Kang or any of his variants as a looming multiversal threat, the finale focuses entirely on Loki's transformation. After gaining new time-slipping abilities, Loki takes control of the multiverse itself, sitting at the end of time, on a throne, and holding the timelines together indefinitely. This creative choice provided Marvel with a clean narrative exit if they chose to move away from Kang altogether. Whether intentional or not, the finale gave Marvel a built-in off-ramp, a quiet but clear sign that they were already starting to distance themselves from the Kang-centered direction. In the end, Marvel's grand plan to build the multiverse saga around Jonathan Majors and Kang unraveled almost as quickly as it began. Despite the fallout, Majors later revealed he had written a letter to Kevin Feige, expressing both his disappointment and continued admiration for Marvel and the character of Kang. "I'm watching them," he said. "I'm pulling for them. If they need me, they know where I'm at." Whether Marvel ever takes him up on that offer remains unclear. But for now, with Loki holding the multiverse together and Doctor Doom poised to take center stage, Marvel has effectively pruned Kang, and the actor once meant to define its future, from its sacred timeline. Thanks for watching, everybody, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more of Hollywood's untold stories and unmade movies.
If you're a pet owner, you've probably been noticing that your vet bills have become more and more expensive over the years. But it's even worse than you might think. The cost of vet care has gone up by 60% in the last decade. That's double the rate of inflation in the same time period. When you consider that more than 60% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck,
60%, 60%.
Is it even possible to own a pet anymore? Now, this all really hit home for me personally when my dog Utah got sick. Aside from chasing frisbees, my lovable 8-year-old cattle dog loved food. So when I noticed that she wasn't interested in eating, I knew something was very wrong. I took her to the vet, and after some tests and x-rays, they told me that she had fluid in her chest and that it was critical. So I rushed her to an emergency hospital called Blue Pearl, where they ran even more tests and x-rays. But with no clear diagnosis, the only definitive thing they gave me was the bill. $3,258 that I had to pay on the spot. Now, that didn't even include the surgery that she might need, which would cost thousands of dollars more. This was the beginning of a 6-month journey trying to save our dog's life, taking her to different vets and spending thousands of dollars in the process. We were desperate to help her, but I also started feeling a little bit exploited, and I know many Americans are going through the same things.
I just got financially assaulted by my dog's vet.
Don't cry, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry.
The veterinary industry is a f***ing racket.
Animal health care is a f***ing scam.
When I started looking into it, I found endless complaints of vet bills through the roof, unexpected charges, and people feeling like they had no choice but to pay up.
Veterinary medicine is the gold rush of 2024.
I call it the rise of Big Vet. These massive private equity firms are buying up veterinary clinics in the hundreds all across the United States.
We talked to veterinarians and journalists to find out exactly why your vet bill has gotten so high, and how the same forces are coming for everything from your dentist to your favorite sports team. Americans weren't always obsessed with pampering our furry friends. Early pet ownership was for more practical purposes. Think more barnyard cat and less Barney. But as cities grew, so did our affection for pets. And over the past few decades, as families grew smaller and people got lonelier, pets became part of the family. Pet ownership in America has exploded in recent years. 94 million households now have pets, with 23 million of those adopted during the pandemic. And it's big business. Americans spent $38 billion on pet health care last year, with costs climbing about 10% a year. This is financial journalist Helene Olin.
The thinking is that people will do anything for their pets, and that they will spend any amount of money that it takes. And this is in part where private equity and corporations, again, come in to the veterinary business. They see people who will pay the bill no matter what.
She says as pets have become humanized, their care did as well.
25 years ago, if your pet needed an MRI, it was often hard to find. There were a few doctors doing it here and there, but you didn't really see it. It wasn't that common. Now, it's an extremely common procedure, and that's in part also because of the rise of big vet.
Like me, she found out about all this and wrote about it after her dog got sick, her late poodle Katie.
I get a diagnosis that my beloved dog is dying in the heart of that awful winter of the pandemic. I got the list of recommended cardiologists, right? And I look and I see everything seems to be VCA, Blue Pearl. I was distraught, but there is part of me that's thinking, gee, why am I getting all the names of these chains? Aren't there independent cardiologists? This is a little strange.
The vet at VCA put Katie on a $300 a month medication that did end up extending her life. But boy, that price tag was tough to swallow. So was what Helene found out next. VCA, her dog's clinic, wasn't even owned by vets. It's owned by Mars, the candy company behind Skittles, M&Ms, and Snickers that has a net sales of $50 billion a year. They own various clinics and hospitals, as well as pet food and products. The Mars family also happens to be one of the wealthiest in the country.
VCA is Blue Pearl is Banfield, and they're owned by Mars. They are the largest owner of vets in the United States. They have over 2,000 veterinary clinics. The second largest is another family-owned group, JAB, based in Europe. They own NVA, National Veterinary Associates, and Pete's Coffee, Einstein Bagels, Panera, and your dog and cat.
Over the last decade, massive corporations and private equity firms have been taking over vet care at an alarming rate, owning up to 50% of clinics and up to 75% of emergency hospitals. They're also snapping up pet insurance companies and even pet food brands. Among the companies with ties to private equity are PetSmart, Pet Vet Care Centers, Figo, Thrive Pet Healthcare, even ASPCA Pet Health Insurance. This made me wonder, why does Wall Street find pet care so appealing?
They see steady money in this business. For private equity, they see a business where they can cut costs or control costs, while bringing in cash, and then sell to a bigger player within the next 4 to 6 years. Or at least that's the hope.
Now that's not just the hope, that's the business model. It's part of something called a roll-up strategy. Private equity buys up practices one by one until they amass dozens.
And the idea is to buy them so that you control more practices and ultimately, hopefully, flip them to a bigger player. Because private equity, unlike, say, family ownership and independent ownership, is not in it for the long haul.
During the pandemic, interest rates were low and borrowing money was cheap. So companies borrowed lots of money and bought up lots of clinics and hospitals.
It's about at this time that you start seeing the veterinary prices start really surging.
And of course, this is during the pandemic when people are also getting more pets, like they're at home with their pets. And what impact has that had on vet care and vet clinics?
It affects it like it affects anything in the healthcare sector. Corporations consolidate so that they have greater pricing power. So you can raise prices higher, you can cut back on quality of service if that's how you feel you're going to need to make more money.
In other words, pricing goes up and quality goes down. And it's not so great for the people working in veterinary care either.
I wanted to be a vet ever since I was 5 years old.
This is Melissa Azell, a vet at a small animal clinic in Alabama.
So, Melissa, why did you decide to become a vet? I've always loved animals, dogs and cats especially. I wanted to be able to be part of a profession where I felt like I was making a difference.
Melissa worked at Banfield, a corporate pet hospital, and then at an independent clinic in Alabama that was bought up by National Veterinary Associates, owned by a private equity firm called JAB. Soon after it was bought, she said she started noticing some big differences in how it was run.
There's a lot of people in those management positions who don't even have any experience in the veterinary field. When I was working for Banfield, one of our regional managers had worked for a Walgreens pharmacy, and that was the closest experience that she had with veterinary medicine.
Melissa says she and her team also started feeling pressure to increase profits. They had a set number of patients with an allotted time for appointments. They worked with less staff for longer hours, and the company required their patients to have treatment plans.
Sometimes they will put a lot of things in the plans that aren't totally necessary. It's not something that you can opt out of. There are things that, in theory, might you catch some things earlier than you would have otherwise? Sure. But does every single puppy that comes into a clinic need a DNA test? No.
And the same thing with standardized protocols built into software.
If you're, this specific patient, you're like, oh, well, due to their breed, this drug may not be a good one. I would rather use this. I'm worried about their kidneys. I want to adjust this. You may or may not have the freedom to do that. And generally those things, if they're made by executives, they are based on things like papers, consensus statements, that kind of thing. But again, there may or may not be any customizability.
Well, I didn't know that. And do you think that these protocols are designed for profit? Is that how they design them?
Yeah.
So to maximize how much money they get off a patient per visit. I did not know that.
We spoke with many vets and techs for the story who described similar problems at private equity-owned clinics: corporate pressure, cost-cutting, and toxic work environments. Some even said the stress was so bad that clinic managers were developing ulcers and losing their hair.
It's really stressful when you feel like you can't do your job appropriately because your job affects patients' lives and the quality of medical care that they're getting. And, medical care isn't cheap.
No one except for Melissa was willing to go on camera out of fear of losing job opportunities in an industry that is rapidly being taken over by private equity. But Melissa eventually left NBA and found a job at a private clinic where she says she is much happier.
Money isn't everything. You have to be able to pay your rent and you have to be able to buy groceries. But you could get paid all the money in the world, and if you aren't made to feel like your company cares about your well-being, that's not a good alternative.
Another bad alternative is going bankrupt. We've also seen how private equity doesn't just drive up prices while lowering quality of service, but also puts businesses at risk. Take Envision Healthcare, a massive physician staffing firm that private equity giant KKR bought for $10 billion in 2018. KKR had only $5 billion, so they borrowed the rest. Envision's way of making money? Loading patients with medical debt. The company eventually collapsed under its own debt. Incidentally, KKR, which is reported to have investments in everything from Israeli weapons manufacturing, surveillance firms, oil pipelines, West Bank real estate, electronic music festivals, and nursing homes, is also one of the major investors in vet clinics as well. And it's not just healthcare. Private equity is taking over everything, from portable toilets to car washes to mixed martial arts, even fire trucks. More Perfect Union did an episode about it, and it was one of the reasons so many fire trucks were out of commission when the LA fires broke out, leading to disastrous results. So if private equity's foray into healthcare and other industries like fire trucks have created such outrage and have caused so many companies to fold, the concern is the same thing could happen to vet clinics and hospitals too. So is anyone doing anything about it? The answer is yes, sort of, but not much. A few years ago, the FTC stepped in and passed antitrust laws.
When Jab bought a whole bunch of clinics, they put conditions on them. They had to report in certain states, including California and Texas, any purchase near one of the, I believe it was the specialty care clinics they already owned prior to completing the purchase. That was under the Biden administration. Lena Khan led FTC. So whether that's going to go anywhere post the Trump administration, nobody seems to know.
The Trump administration has been very friendly to private equity, refusing to close a tax loophole that largely benefits private equity fund managers. and just recently considering an executive order to allow 401ks to invest in private equity. Meanwhile, some states have passed laws to try and stop anti-competitive behavior, and they've made it illegal for non-veterinarians to own clinics to try and prevent corporate interests from influencing vets' judgment. But honestly, I would expect to see more of these chains, not less, as private equity firms buy up even more clinics and expand into other pet services. Just last year, private equity company Blackstone purchased Rover. It's an online pet sitting and dog walking company. And Jap Consumer Partners is buying up pet insurance. And the sad thing is, we know that as prices continue to go up, people don't take their pets to the vet as often, or they abandon them altogether.
Whether that's pets not getting treated for heartworm or fleas, whether that's the uptick in shelter intakes, which a lot of shelter people believe is partly as a result of the private equity and corporate players in the veterinary business raising prices so that people can't afford to take care of pets.
For my partner and me, it was not easy to pay all the bills for Utah's illness, but we had so much hope and just kept forking over cash. More than $15,000 total. But even after her surgery, the fluid kept coming back, and her health kept declining. It was getting to the point that she was having trouble getting up. We knew the time had come. It's the pact that we make with our pets, that we're going to be there for them to ease their pain and do what's best. So we took her on a final golf cart ride, something that she loved to do, to the beach by our house one last time. And a vet came to her home that day and put our girl to sleep on Valentine's Day. She passed peacefully at home with us and her favorite frisbee and ball by her side. The experience obviously left us grieving our dog, though there's nothing that we wouldn't have done for her. And that love is what private equity is exploiting.
The fact of the matter is no matter how you look at it, your pet is a number on somebody's spreadsheet.
I always tell my clients, like, there are no stupid questions. Ask questions and be involved in the care that your pet is receiving. And if there's things that you don't like, then, like, stand up for, yourself as a pet owner and stand up for your babies and ask why.
Now, don't get me wrong. The vet care I found at independent clinics was expensive too. That's partly just due to advancing medical technology that comes with progress. But that's an expected increase in cost. Private equity, on the other hand, is squeezing the industry to the point where owning a pet might become impossible. Whether that's due to rising prices and falling quality of care, or whether they drive vets into bankruptcy in the future, like they have with other types of human health care. We're always looking to tell more stories like this one, unpacking the economic systems that affect our daily lives. Are there other areas of your life that you've been seeing getting more expensive or degrading in quality? Send us a tip at stories@perfectunion.us or leave a comment below.
Yeah, so they purchased this land here as well as on the other side, which is a bit scary. Yeah, all of this. I think people know what we will be giving up, but what will we get in return is the larger question, and no one really knows that with certainty.
Solano County, California sits just north of the Bay Area and south of Sacramento. And for the past 8 years, its largely middle and working class communities have been facing what many locals consider a hostile takeover.
They've destroyed families. They don't care. They do not care about us, no matter what they say.
Just, you can't make this shit up. I have never seen anything like this.
We visited Solano County in June to learn more about a battle between a local community and a secretive group intent on creating its own society. The story began in 2017.
A farmer from out in the area called me and said, "Hey, somebody's buying land out here." And I thought, okay. He goes, "But it's a lot of land." So I went down to the county and looked at the property records, and I could see the name Flannery LLC, and that they had bought up at that time more than 20,000 acres.
Albert Medvitz and his wife, Jeannie, moved back to Solano County in 1987. to run her family's farm, one of the many dryland farms in the region.
In 2019, we ourselves got a letter offering to buy our ranch at inflated prices. We made it clear there's no way we would sell this ranch. And they simply could not seem to comprehend why people would turn down money for something and maybe more value than money could buy.
They decided to sue the ones who would not sell to them.
They came in the dark of night, kind of. They did this stuff secretly. You know, they've just ticked off a whole lot of the community, and then they have the gall to sue farmers that don't want to sell. It's just like, what are you thinking?
Flannery also sued dozens of other family farmers who held out after discussing the value of their land amongst each other, accusing them of collusion and antitrust violations.
Of course they talked. Farmers do that. People do that. They want badly. One's right near the water, and that person is not giving it up. So these farmers, what's happened is they are going broke trying to fight back against these billionaire boys.
It has just been agonizing. There were so many people who were wounded by this.
The buyers maintained a veil of secrecy around their identity until August 2023. That's when the New York Times broke the news that Flannery, which eventually spent $900 million buying up 66,000 acres of land, is the front group for a company called California Forever. And California Forever, backed by billionaires such as Reid Hoffman, Laurene Powell Jobs, and Mark Andreessen, wants to build a privately run city in the middle of the county's protected farmland with far less regulation.
The new city would be located north of Highway 12 between Travis Air Force Base and Rio Vista.
The group wants to build a green community that it claims will include thousands of affordable homes, shopping, dining, and walkable neighborhoods.
So they're saying they want to be good neighbors with people in Sumner County, and at the same time they're suing their own literal fence-by-fence neighbors.
Investors in California Forever have been largely mum on the project and strategy. The public face of California Forever is its CEO, a former Goldman Sachs whiz kid named Jan Schwamek. He grew up in Eastern Europe, was a young prodigy in London, and founded a failed Twitter-like app. Here he is talking about the lawsuits at a tech conference.
It was a hard decision, but we have laws on the books that protect against that kind of conduct, and we'll leave it to the courts to figure it out.
What is the law that says if you want my property and I don't want to sell it to you, you drag me to court?
There's no law like that. What we have a law against is the law that says if the 6 gas companies, the gas stations in town get together and say that they're going to charge $50 for gas, then there's price fixing laws against that.
Schwamek has also been confronted by residents.
I cannot tell you how much hatred I have for these people. Just hatred. Schwamek was crude and did not understand that he would have had a much better reception if he had talked to people.
Schwamek self-published a book in 2009 titled Racing Towards Excellence, which summed up his personal outlook with a misquote attributed to Ayn Rand. Quote, "The question isn't who's going to let me, it's who's going to stop me." The stakes are sky high, both locally and for the nation. If the project goes through, a precedent will be set with billionaires able to buy their way through community resistance and create their own privately held societies. And if that sounds exaggerated, it's already in progress elsewhere.
Legacy systems of governance keep individuals from reaching their full potential.
Andreessen, one of California Forever's billionaire tech investors, is also an investor in a company called Pronomos, which is trying to build its own radical tech cities around the world. In Honduras, Pronomos purchased land unbeknownst to locals in order to build Prospera, a libertarian, Bitcoin-powered city, and now that the country wants them out, the company is suing to establish autonomy.
Prospera had a very negative impact on our community because the mental stress that we are under. We don't know when our home will be taken from us.
Prospera is being very slowly built along the ocean in an area with some existing infrastructure. California Forever brings the idea to the U.S. with just as much mystery and libertarian zeal.
I first met Jan. He came to City Hall and met with me, and I had my city manager there as well. And the one thing that's always stuck out with me in that discussion was we asked him, what kind of governance are you talking about if you're making a city? And he said, we're going to do something completely different. It won't be what you're used to. We asked him to go a little further, and he did not. But it wasn't going to be like a city council kind of thing.
I think the biggest disadvantage will be to the individuals in the new community because you don't have an elected official to hold accountable. You don't have anyone that you can directly communicate your concerns to.
This is a key promise of the so-called network state movement, a tech separatist effort to create private, self-governed utopias. Schwamek has claimed he isn't interested in the movement, but several of California Forever's top investors are involved, and its creator called the would-be city a prime example of his idea.
The network state is about the book, is about the bare land version of it, right? Which is already being tried. You're seeing it in Northern California.
Donald Trump, supported by Andreessen and other Silicon Valley libertarians, has a similar plan, but he calls them freedom cities.
Now, you can't serve two masters, is my opinion. So one will always suffer. Either you'll answer to the people that you're serving or your investors, but you really can't do both.
Schwamek has talked repeatedly about removing regulations around building, which is key to the network state's self-government plan and a dream for developers.
And when I look at all of these plans or places that I visited, I often wonder, was the original vision somehow more radical? And then it got watered down because the fire department said something and the city said something.
I don't believe that this is just going to be a development. I think this is going to be an experiment about forms of governance. And when you have somebody like Mark Andreessen writing the Techno-Optimist Manifesto, claiming that words like sustainability are a curse on society, I think that's extremely exaggerated.
When we spoke with Solano County locals and officials, they voiced some similar concerns about the proposed city, its size, and how it impacts the generations of residents.
My fear is that building a development like this, where it could be up to 400,000 people in a county of 450,000 people, it's not being built for the people of Solano County.
And we have to deal with the consequences. We have to deal with the congestion on Highway 12. We have to deal with the increase in taxes that could possibly happen or occur. We have to deal with, if we're in a drought year, how is water going to be re-rationed?
There was uncertainty about promises made to working class residents.
They're flat out lying to people about what it is.
And worry about California Forever's impact on the environment and economy, which was validated when the Solano County Board of Supervisors released an economic impact study. The report was prepared ahead of a November ballot initiative to change zoning laws to allow the city's construction to begin. Polling already showed mass opposition to the plan. Then this happened.
California Forever announcing today its East Solano plan will no longer be on the
It's inflation disguised as policy. And now, with inflation still hammering everyday people, healthcare costs rising, and the federal deficit growing in leaps and bounds, this kind of rebate feels more like a political illusion than any kind of real relief. Most people think that government rebates are free money, just a little thank you checks to help with rising prices. Sounds like a good thing and helpful, right? But what if I told you that that money is not free at all? It comes from more debt, and we're seeing the tariffs filter through as well. And all those are just taxes, just more confiscation and inflation added to the things that you buy every single day. Groceries, supplies, machinery, gas, you name it, everything. So while the government celebrates record tariff revenues, wow, look at this, over $113 billion this year alone. Businesses and consumers are really the ones that are footing the bill. And that little rebate that they're thinking about giving you, it's just a small slice of what you've already paid. But you just don't realize it. Here's the truth. Tariffs don't just hit foreign companies. They hit you. Every single time a business pays more to import something, those costs get passed along to customers, families, and local shops. It's inflation disguised
Sam is in Tower 3. I'm trying to find a way there. Stabilize the ether reactors before they go critical. Please.
Suppose Sam's trail is fresher than yours. Young Lynn, you were way over your pay grade.
Trapped in the sphere of Psychoth, Nexus had no chance. Mortally wounded, she yielded to the dark ether. Her spirit now only lives on in me.
Ignore that cheap knockoff of your fallen friend. My family takes priority now.
Eddie, you let her die inside that vault. You could have saved...
And risk releasing the Forsaken. Maxis chose her fate. Mary and Samuel did not.
Double points.
Security Chief Blanchard to any surviving personnel. Consider Pericles Panos hostile if you encounter him.
Wait, someone actually willing to help? Are you all hearing this? Throwing Semtex!
But money isn't the only thing that matters. We all need food, water, energy, security, barter ability, wealth preservation, and shelter. And because we're running out of time, community has become really the most important hope that I have. Because local power, local community in action, it's a neighbor who shares seeds or canned food, a local clinic that helps families without these huge bills, and a group that teaches skills like gardening or fixing things. These are the things that help us stay strong when we go through this reset. It's critically important that we come together in local community. And that's true globally as well. There's quiet and power revolution in you converting your garbage fiat into physical gold and silver in your possession. So if you're feeling the pressure from inflation, debt, or rising healthcare costs, remember this. You're not alone. You have your community. You've got tools and truth. You've got people around you, here and in your own community as well. Execute your sound money strategy. Grow food. Share skills. Build trust. That's how we stay free, strong, and ready, no matter what comes next. We have to get sound money back in this system again. This is our opportunity. I can see it. And while the cryptocurrencies and, stable coins, they want you to think that it's going to
I just turned 40.
All this time, I clung to the hope I could bring back Maxis. And that's over now.
Perhaps, Elizabeth. Or perhaps you have a chance to do something even greater. I am confident you will choose wisely.
I'm tired because I didn't sleep. I'm tired because every part of this feels rigged from every corner. Rent's higher, gas is higher, groceries are insane. But now apparently, we're just not working hard enough. We were taught to smile through it and just be grateful if you have a job. Meanwhile, half of this country is one emergency away from losing everything, and don't even think about slowing down because the second you pause, you feel guilty. Like you should be doing more, spending more, posting more, being more. And when you finally speak up, people hit you with the same tired shit, like, just work harder.
Bonus points.
I wonder if this is truly random. It could be rigged, you know. This will keep me in fighting form. Excellent choice, Box. I've started to enjoy the anticipation. Not a good psychological indicator.
Always seem to be bad ones. Create a false maxis or help the director. Or you
Helping Richthofen is a non-starter. He's a monster. By expunging a terrible mistake from Manchester's record, maybe I owe her that.
So I'll just say quickly, I've talked about this in other videos, but I was laid off last year, about a year ago, after a 10-year career being a designer, working for Fortune 500 companies, and I've taken lots of will to continue on. By the time I was I was extremely ill and broken and completely stressed out and burned out. Like, it's been a year, but I still can't remember going back into that job. But like, I was so ambitious when I was younger. Like in my 20s, I was like, I'm gonna be a boss bitch. I'm gonna own my own home. Like, I'm gonna get married, have kids, have a dog, have all the things. I have none of the things. I'm married.